departing shortly.
Darling, you send me. I know you send me. Darling, you send me.
You are now tuned in to your inner Voyager experience. Welcome to the unknown, the unknown, the unknown, the unknown. Hey everyone, welcome to the Inner Voyager Experience. Today we have a very special guest, a personal friend of both Todd and mine. He has 25 years in sales, marketing experience, 15 years of training and consulting experience, and he also has an experience that spans and consists of a Fortune 250 background. Mathew Thomas has helped people with realizing their true innate gifting. Now, that's different from the passion and the purpose, which we often talk about. We could dive in today. And by this, Mathew offers executive advising to six-figure entrepreneurs who desire to transform into the seven-figure world-changing business leaders. He also offers leadership training tools for corporate teams to fulfill their vision of the future. Please help me and Todd welcome to the stage Mathew Thomas, the founder of ProStar Business Development. Mathew, how you doing, man? Great to see you.
Hey, great, Mathew. Thank you very much. And Todd, thank you for having me on as well this morning.
Awesome. So we talked a bit before we decided to do this bit here about the future of work and about how the mindset of the C-level executive is changing throughout COVID and throughout all these movements that have come out, and as people are gaining more awareness to kind of the troubles or the darkness that we've had in society that has been unaddressed for so long. So first off, let's come back and say, why did you decide to develop ProStar Business Development, and then we could dive into that future of work portion.
Yes, ProStar Business Development, I started 9 years ago, a little over 9 years ago. I always had a business or entrepreneurial mindset from a very young age. I believe that was born from watching my father's side of the family, who are very entrepreneurial for 5 generations in India, from where my family is from. They have been, very successful in many different industries: hotel, food industry, real estate, etc. And so when I saw that my father also came to America and built his business as well, that gave me the courage to start my own, in fact. Now, of course, I was an employee of different companies. At the same time, I still had an entrepreneurial mindset, even during the time that I was an employee. And I knew that one day that, I was meant to start my own. And so that's how ProStar Business Development came along 9 years ago.
Awesome. So 9 years you've done this, and that's incredible to have that vision from when you were a young child. Then you were able to grasp it and evolve it into what it is now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, awesome. So in some of the CEOs or C-level executives that you're working with, what are you finding in terms of, and let's break this down into like mindset, so the mental capacity, and then maybe even some emotional intelligence portion of self-awareness that they're generating in terms of how they can better manage their teams, or in order to create better productivity and ultimately greater success for the corporations in this time of great change. So what are the mindset shifts that you're seeing within the C-level executive right now?
Yes. So when it comes to the vision that they have in their life, that a lot of times even CEOs or C-level executives, they are not aware of what they should see at the end, right? We have all heard of, we should start with our end in mind. Many people are just going from day to day to day and not understanding what their purpose is in life. And so with that in mind, I actually set out a methodological process from what their vision should be, meaning help them to establish their vision if they don't have one, and then how to make that become fruition at the end, right? And so with that in mind, they now have a roadmap on how to make that vision to become fruition. Now, especially during the time of the pandemic, it came where people were talking about, well, we needed to pivot our vision. Well, if you needed to pivot from your vision, that was not a true vision in the beginning, right? Because if you have an innate vision, that means that you need to have a certain destiny. You want to make sure that you can change methods, but your vision should never change. And so that's why we have a clear process on what that vision is, and then make that come into fruition. And so that's they understand what type of shift that they should take within that methodological process.
Okay, so if we're understanding you correctly, it's the mission and the steps towards the goal to meet that mission that can pivot, but the vision should never change.
Correct. So the mission, in other words, is your purpose, right? And so your purpose can be fulfilled on a daily basis if you think about it, right? But your vision is long term. What are you going to do 5 years? What are you going to accomplish 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even 2 years from now, right? And what I've seen, or what I've learned is that especially in the West, we tend to think short term too much, right? If you look at, if you talk to people from the eastern side of the world, they have much longer thinking process, right?
Oh yeah,
We're
oh
talking
yeah.
about even past their own generation, right? And so what I want to do is really expand their thought process, expand their mindset to where they're not just thinking about today or even the next month or even the next year. What are you going to do for your life, right? That's why you meet so many people that have gone through life over a span of 30 years and wonder why they've never achieved their vision. And that's the number one reason for that is because they were distracted, okay, of the daily, requests and things that came up on a daily basis. For example, a lot of times those are good things. They're not bad things, right? It could be people asking you to meet them for coffee, or helping them to move, or just spend some time here and there. And what happens is that time accrues, and then at several years down the road, you wonder why your vision was never fulfilled, right? So it's not necessarily that they're doing bad or evil things. A lot of times they're doing good things, but not the right thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
in terms of, and we'll dive down a rabbit hole here real quick. In terms of the work-life balance and doing things that make you happy within your personal life, how would you advise, especially now, C-level executives to create that? In terms of spending time with family, going out to eat, going to an event in the evening that maybe doesn't align with your vision.
Sure. So you have to be intentional when it comes to any aspect of your life, especially when it comes to your family, right? Um, for example, I think most of our audience are very intentional when it comes to scheduling out what meetings that needs to take place, right? Whether it's a day from now, a week from now, we're very intentional. But we also need to be intentional with the other important aspects of our life, whether it's family, or uh, meeting with our with church, or any type of religious activities, whatever it may be. You want to be intentional with that, right? So you need to schedule time with important things in your life that also has to do with your vision as well, right? For example, when it comes to my family, I have a vision for my family. I have three children, right? And for that vision to be fulfilled, I need to make sure that I'm investing time with them as well. I need to make sure that I'm intentional in scheduling time with them,
Okay.
right?
Could
uh,
you
yeah,
could you share that vision you have with your family so people or leaders that are watching this can say, okay, here's a very practical example of a vision.
sure. So I have a vision for my family, that when it comes to my three children, that they become leaders of significant change for our world, right? Now, for me, the significant change that I would like to make in this world is to make sure that I'm making a significant dent into uh, eradicating uh, not homelessness, but the food situation, right? We have 30, uh, we have it takes $30 billion a year to solve world hunger, right? And so, with that in mind, look, I can't solve that problem myself, but I can raise leaders that have the right heart to be able to make a dent in that, right? Now, I want to make sure that my children take up their purpose, take on their purpose, and be able to become leaders that will be able to make significant changes in this world, right? So, what does that mean? I can't just focus on my business 100% of the time and expect my children to fulfill their purpose, right? Right? And so I have been put in this world. I have been given three children, and I have a responsibility to them to make sure that they are living to their full potential, and not only that, to fulfilling their purpose, right?
Mm,
So I need to make sure that I'm intentional in scheduling time in with them, and many times I'm spending one-on-one time with them. I have my oldest daughter, 10, and then my two sons that are 7 and 6, and I'm intentional on spending time with them on a one-on-one basis, right? As well as family time as well. Um, and so every night before they go to sleep, I spend time with them along with my wife, and we impart in them, wisdom that is needed for the next day, right? And then on a weekly basis, spend time with them to impart wisdom into them to understand what their purpose is to be fulfilled for the long term. And so, with that in mind, I make sure that we are intentional with that as well.
That's
beautiful.
definitely value added. I mean, that's wonderful. And so it leads me to discuss with you openly about leadership and leaders, because you do have a background and history of working with leaders. If you were talking to leaders today about skills that are relevant for the future of work and the marketplace that's actually evolving, what would you advise them as how to look at labor? Because a lot of it, I think, in leadership is they understand how to look up, maybe, look at their margin, look at their growth. But now in the future of work, I really believe they have to look down. They have to look down inside their companies, look down around their staff and their other leadership. So how would you actually advise leaders on how to identify skills that are relevant for the future of work?
Yes. So when it comes to skills, like for example, when they are seeking the right people to be able to come and fill those positions, Uh, skills is really just one minor aspect of what they should be looking for, right? Because you can have someone that comes in with an excellent resume, they fit all the spots,
Yeah.
but then when they join, they don't fit with the company culture,
Yeah.
right? Or they feel like, hey, I have all these skills, but you don't, so you need me, and so they start to feel like they have ownership of the owner, right?
Yep.
And so we need to make sure that we are going beyond just the skills
Yep.
aspect of it, right? To understand what their personality profile may be, what what their history was at previous companies and how they gelled with their teams. Are they a team player? So these are aspects that needs to be assessed before hiring on someone instead of just looking at the skills aspect itself.
That's that's wonderful. I mean, that's people don't really understand it. It has those skills have a lot to do the relationship with economic mobility. So for a lot of leaders that are listening are looking to see how they can create opportunity amongst their companies, which obviously will create growth. How would you advise them on ways or tactics that maybe they can create, look at those skills and turn that into economic mobility amongst their organization? What's your thoughts on that?
Yes. So when it comes to the skills that they are looking for, you want to make sure that uh, the skills are relevant to the position that they're filling, but at the same time, look, these professionals that are filling these roles, they might not be at the proficiency level that uh, the company is looking to be at, right?
Hmm.
So, for example, John Maxwell, in one of his books, said it the best, I believe. A lot of times, we as entrepreneurs, it is very challenging for us to delegate, certain roles and skills to someone else, right? Because we tend to want to take charge of ourselves. We think that, we do everything perfectly, so we want it to be our way or the highway. Okay, so John Maxwell said, if the individual that you're looking into or the team that you're looking into can do 80% of what you're able to do,
Hmm.
then you have a very good candidate
Hmm.
that you're dealing with, and then you can work with the rest of the 20%. So that way they can you can train them and guide them to be able to uh, drive towards the profitability for the company that you're looking for.
Mm.
Mm. That is definitely deep. That's What's your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, I completely agree. I was kind of reminiscing on some times where I was captaining ships and how important I felt that to be. Matthew's words. It was really the epicenter of how I led, and even having to adapt your leadership style to the different people that you're working with, working for, actually serving, and going from like an agile leadership to a servant leadership to transformational leadership or whatever is needed in order to lift those people up to get them where you see them in terms of a vision. And that's not to say, and that involves, and Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong, but that involves a lot of letting go as a leader, and that's
Yes,
a huge quality that you can have to possess. But it's ultimately one of the most difficult qualities to hone because you're not taught it. You're not taught to not fear people making mistakes because it's going to reflect back on you as the CEO or the captain or whoever it is, the manager. We're not taught how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable like that, and we think that if employee so and so messes up a project or messes up a deadline, that's going to reflect back on us, but it doesn't. It's just some feedback that we need to go back and have an after action report and understand why that happened so we prevent that happening moving forward. So that brings a nice segue to workplace wellness, because that's really what we're trying to create a better future for in the future of work is workplace wellness. How do we transform what's mental health right now into mental well-being for our employees, especially with all the lines being blurred of the personal and the professional world with hybrid work, remote work, working from home or working from the office? And so what advice could you give C-level executives right now in terms of moving that needle forward to make the workplace a happier place so we prevent this great resignation of, what is it, 93% of people who are asked to return to work, they're considering quitting their jobs to go start something new instead of sticking with the company. How can we help C-level executives transform the culture of their company to create better workplace wellness?
Well, you have C-level executives, they're forced now to be a lot more flexible, significantly more flexible. Right now, we're trending 25% of of the workforce to work from home, 25% at the office, and 50% hybrid model. And so, so with that in mind, C-level executives, uh, as much as they want, a lot of them want people at the office itself, they are forced to be much more flexible than ever before. And so, with that in mind, uh, they have to be conducive to the flexibility of their employees, right? Of their employees' limitations and what they're able to do from home. For example, in the last year, in from 2020 to 2021, uh, you know, many companies were able to prove that they were still be able to be productive much more than they ever imagined because of the transition that they experienced, right? From working from home. And so now with these new discoveries, like in 2020, uh, companies actually 23% of companies actually said that they would be productive. Now in 2021, that's over 50%. I think it's 59% now. And so now when the C-level executives are starting to understand that productivity can take place even from the comfort of their own home, then they need to start offering packages and services that would be conducive for people to be able to work from home as well as the office as well. In fact, in the office, where last from 2000 to 2020, it was the concept of open space at the office itself, right? Now that restructuring has to take place in the office where and remodeling is going to take place because of what's happening with the pandemic. And so just like they are flexible within the office, they need to be flexible with others that are working from home as well.
Yep, absolutely. So, in speaking of physical restructuring of the office, we can view this as in, yeah, we have to shift the way we work within the office due to COVID, or more towards that open space. But we can also say that now we're getting away from the more competitive industrial revolution mindset and way of structuring the office and work to a more collaborative, coherent culture, and even in terms of the physical structure of the office. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. In
So again, it
fact,
comes down to mindset.
absolutely. Because, like I said before, the vision of that company needs to still remain, right? It's the method that's changing now, right? And so this is just a lesson for C-level executives and management to understand. Look, we need to be able to pivot at a moment's notice now, right? Because that huge pivot that happened in 2020 can now happen multiple times, even in 2021 and beyond, right? And so, what are they ready? Do they have the resources? And are their mindsets in place to be able to do that? Because I remember, especially from 2010 up to 2020, when I was a lot of my training was in the automotive industry. I was warning the automotive industry, especially on the retail side, that a shift is coming. And I actually, many times, if you looked at my older LinkedIn posts, many times I said in 2020, there's going to be a major shift that's going to be happening. We need to make sure that we're transitioning our sales processes to be able to be conducive to consumers online. But I'm telling you, 95% of retailers were not listening to it. And they said, before you get forced into that, make sure that you're setting up. And so what happened? I did not know the pandemic is going to be the cause of of that shift, right? And that's true of several other industries, right? Where they weren't making the investment into the resources that were needed to shift into a more digital experience, for their employees and for their customers and clients as well. And so now they're forced to do that. And so we should be always thinking proactively in the changes that's going to be taking place instead of reactively.
Yep.
Okay. Because when we're reacting to something, what a lot of times what happens is emotional decisions can take place as well. Irrational decisions can take place as well, right? Because again, we're thinking of the short term, right? And when I say we, I'm talking about generally, right? People are thinking about the short term, and when they think short term, they're only thinking, about the emotions that are going on at that time, and then reacting to those emotions. That is really a travesty for people that are, providing for their families for the long term.
Absolutely, and I love that subject. So maybe we can dive deep into that for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get into technology and automation, and then we'll talk about how some other factors that are affecting the labor force. So, in terms of emotion, and God, I love talking about emotion because it's such a driver for so many things that we do, and you can get into the neuroscience behind it, but we'll just keep it at surface level of emotion. So, leaders that are making decisions from an emotional standpoint in the professional realm, how are you coaching them through how that mimics something in their personal life, and maybe seeing the root cause of why they're feeling or experiencing that emotion? Because if we break the word emotion down, emo to be TION in a state of, which means we have something in our life that hasn't been healed. We haven't addressed fully. So now it's manifesting itself into the professional realm. So how do you create, or how do you get a CEO, a C-level executive to see that correlation between what is happening in their professional experience and where that emotion, like from an emotional standpoint, and how that correlates to something that they're experiencing in their personal life? How do you get them to open up to that?
I think, we've all heard of the quote, I believe it's from the movie Godfather, saying it's not personal, it's just business, right? I mean, we all love that quote, but we all know it's not true.
Completely.
Right? Because the success of your role or your purpose in your company, in your business, 100% stems from your personal and mental well-being, right? And so we have to be able to address their personal well-being. We're not saying that we need to be find out all the details of their lives and what's going on in their marriage and family and so on and so forth. But we want, as as business owners, as companies that are employing people, look, we are also employing their emotions as well. We're also employing their mental well-being as well. So those are aspects that needs to be addressed. There needs to be psychologists and therapists at companies, or companies that are willing to invest in that, right? Because if companies and entrepreneurs and business owners, they're looking for a certain type of production, then their personal well-being needs to be addressed, right? And so those are things that I actually, coach on as well in my executive advising, because I know that, you cannot have one without the other. Okay. Now that naturally comes up. I don't go in, saying, well, let me know about your whole life, right? It comes up in conversation 100% of the time.
Absolutely. They want an outlet for that, because when you're at the top, you don't have anybody to share it with. You're expected to make all the decisions, have all the answers, and be the end all be all for everybody.
Exactly.
I get it.
Exactly. I had a client that I've been with for the last 12 months now. Uh, she had a 7-figure business, doing well on that aspect, but at the same time, uh, the relationships with family and employees were down the drain. She was in a lot of debt, and she was going through many different things personally that even I was not able to address. In fact, what I did was I thought I would actually partner with someone else to be able to address certain things that I felt like that I should not even get into, right? And so what happened in a very short amount of time, she was able to heal those relationships. She got out of her debt, and she even purchased several properties in cash and doubled her revenue. Okay, and this happened in a span of actually 8 or 9 months. So with this in mind, that is because we were able to uh, uh, focus onto the personal well-being of that individual, right? And that's just one of the many stories that I know of, because when those aspects are addressed, when it comes to uh, their personal well-being, how they're viewed by their family and their peers, and the people that they work with, how they feel respected, they feel that they have authority over things that they felt like they don't have any control over, and now they're on their road to success. Are they going to hit roadblocks? Sure they are, but now they're in a much better position of strength to be able to overcome those roadblocks, and that will help them to become successful in their careers as well.
Hmm. Huge. Yeah, that's all so true.
Well, that brings me to a thought that is always kind of underserved in the whole conversation about workplace wellness, working in general, and oftentimes opportunities. What factors for women which have to run dual roles oftentimes, because I've often said to people that being a mom is equally a job as working a job. What factors do you think hinder women, you know, from their participation in the new labor force, or may be a barrier for them to actually grow? Because obviously, the framework of work is changing, hybrid work is evolving, but at the same time, with hybrid work, it's making people juggle more. And for women who are at the crux of our households, what do you think may hinder them or may impede them from their own personal growth?
Well, I will answer that based on uh, my observation. I'm not a woman, so as far as it goes, but based on my observation, for example, uh, when I had my first child, right, I actually took time off to make sure that I was spending time with my child. I took 2 months off. And boy, was I in for a surprise, because I had no idea. That is when I learned what a full time mom's responsibilities really was, because it was an eye opener for me.
Hmm.
Okay? And so I have a lot more respect for women that are juggling the workforce at the same time the responsibilities of at home as well, right? Because uh, you know uh, they have an expectation to produce at work. At the same time, they have, I would say, even on a different level than fathers, right? They have a responsibility to their children at home and the responsibilities of home as well. So I give it to women. Kudos to women that are making it happen, especially on both ends, right? And
Oh yeah,
in other
Oh yeah.
spheres as well.
totally.
Um, yeah, and so during this pandemic, I've learned that 2 million women have left the workforce,
Hmm. Yeah.
and the term is even called she session.
Hmm.
She session.
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. So now, C-level executives, like I said before, whether they want it or not, they're forced to be even more flexible, especially for women, because they need to be home, especially if they're chosen or are required to be at home with their children to have at home schooling. At the same time, at work to provide for their family as well, right? Especially in the single mother family dynamic, right? And uh, so with that in mind, we have those type of sub factors that are affecting the workforce, especially when it comes to the women that I have witnessed. I deal with some of my clients that are women that are single mothers, right? But that are still very successful in their business and successful with their family as well. And it's a huge undertaking, and the mental capacity that you would have to have for to produce results on both ends and on multiple fronts is simply outstanding to have that. And so, with that in mind, the flexibility of providing that hybrid type of environment, whether that's from home and office, or whether that's from working from home itself. These leaders and CEOs and C-levels must understand the family dynamics that needs to take place also, because now the family is also more of a part of the workforce than ever before. So that's why,
Huge.
yeah, that's why technology uh, needs is at an uptick as well, right? For example, if you're working from home and you have, maybe, some of these employees, they don't have the best backgrounds, right? They don't have the quietest place,
Hmm.
right? And so, and this is not a plugin, but I use a background noise cancellation called Crisp. And so I can have my kids yell right outside of my office, and you would not hear it at all. And so technology needs to be, provided or promoted by these companies to be able to do that. So that, along with virtual backgrounds and, you know, and for example, let's just say that, there's a lot of noise and everything that's going on in the background. Technology such as closed captioning, right?
Hmm.
Even with translating to different languages, that is imperative also to be provided, especially when they're working from home as well.
Yep. So now we get to talk about the elephant in the room. Thing that probably some leaders thought, okay, that's the way to solve everything, technology and automation.
Yeah.
But technically, it's more like a digital band-aid,
Yep.
because when you really apply the reality of what's happening and how work is changing, where it's becoming more mindset than methodology, how do you help leaders realize that they can, use technology and automation to narrow the gap, but essentially there has to be a better way to harness it so it doesn't overrun the challenges of the workforce, or the challenges of, say, diversifying the workforce, because all of us believe that you have to have a diversified workforce to actually really grow, essentially. And now that you have like emerging nations and other countries that have access to technology, is that the best resource for a leader, or is it just something in the toolbox that you would have helped them evaluate, so then they can actually grow in a really organic way and grow in the right way they're supposed to grow for their organization?
Very good question. Like I said, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
And with the emergence of technology as we experience today has is only 10 to 15 years old. How did businesses grow before? How was my family's entrepreneurial success before? It's all with personal interaction, right? My family came from India to America,
Mhm.
not knowing the language, having less than $10 in their pockets, and they were able to become citizens, and they were able to build their businesses from the ground up, and provided for three children for their colleges and so on and so forth. And here we are now, right? So now they can look at this and laugh, and actually they can look at this and laugh and say, you don't need all this technology. This is to be productive. But here's the thing: technology is definitely something that will accelerate your productivity. But what's happening with a lot of companies is that it's being depended on for the majority of the time,
Yep.
right? And so what's happening is that the human touch is being lessened and lessened, and that is not how we are made, right? I'm sure that even us right here, we would much rather be in a room at one time, right? But we're not. But we're making the best of the technology that we have so that we can be productive and then move forward. And so, with this in mind, uh, technology should only be used as a complement for production, for high production, and for success, not as an end all for us to depend on 100%, and even to replace that human interaction that we should have. I'm hearing of technology that's coming where, well, it's already happened really in some of these movies, like Toy Story. Not one human was used in that movie,
Mhm.
right? It was all CGI and so on and so forth. So now I'm hearing that, you know, actors are actually being offered to where they can sign away their rights of their voices, of their emotions, and et cetera. So to sign off their rights so they can use 3D renderings of that actor, so that way they can produce these future movies without having to spend millions and millions of dollars on these actors. And with
Wow.
the benefit of what, not dealing with these actors' issues, right? Like we have heard with some of these people, like who was in the Netflix presidential show,
Oh, House of Cards.
House of Cards.
Yes.
and Empire, Juicy, Smollett, and so on, right? Everybody has their issues, and so now they have to, change up their whole cast and so on and so forth. They don't have to worry about it with this way, right? They don't have to worry about what's going on in their lives. Now they have the rights to their image, and they can use that with 3D renderings. I mean, it's just mind blowing. So
Wow.
even when let's just say as we were to see those movies again, I feel like that human connection is still going to be lost because we know those are 3D renderings, and so that's the type of world that we're going to, and I think there should be a balance of technology and that human interaction as well, and valuing that the human touch basically.
Mhm. Those are great closing words. Great
Yeah.
closing words. Because it brings it back to morality and ethics and compassion and empathy and thanks for the human experience that we all share.
Yep.
So beautifully said.
Yeah.
All right, well, time to plug you. Where on this world wide web can people find Mathew Thomas and ProStar Business Developments?
Thank you for that. The best place would be on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Mathew with one T, P Thomas.
Okay, and we're gonna include you on the post there. We'll tag you.
Sure.
Throw this up.
And that's where they can find me personally. And then, of course, there's the website at ProStarBD.com.
ProStarBD.com. Okay,
That's right.
yeah, we'll put that in the notes as well. So, are you open for a surprise question?
Absolutely.
Okay. If you can have dinner with any three people, they can be three from the past, three from the present, three from the future, or a combination of anything. Or you can give us two. We've had a couple people give us two. So whatever you feel comfortable with, or you can give us four. Three people that you'd want to have dinner with from any point in time or the future.
Number one, King Solomon,
Okay.
known
Why?
to be the wisest person in history. He is the author of the book of Proverbs, right? It has 31 chapters, and each chapter is, from what I know, is designed for each day of our lives, right? And when he asked, when he was asked, you can have whatever you want. He didn't ask for riches or anything like that. He asked for wisdom, and that's what he got, and he got a lot more than that. So
100%.
if I look, it's one thing to know, have knowledge, right? Because look, the internet world, it gives us lot of knowledge, but it doesn't give us wisdom. Wisdom is application of that knowledge, right?
Comes with experience. 100%.
So he would be number one. Now there are times where he didn't apply his own wisdom, and he and he didn't benefit from it. But that would be number one. Number two. Number two would be. So you making me think here. That's a good question. Number two would really be any president, okay, of our country. It doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat, because to me, they were able to overcome extreme odds to get to that position, right? Extreme odds to come to that position, and extreme, what's that word that I'm looking for? Extreme opposition to be able to get to that position, right? So I feel like I can learn a lot from that. And the third would be I can't leave out my wife, so I'm gonna say my third one is gonna be my wife. I better have dinner with her. I learn a lot from her, as well. So so those are the three. That's a very good question as far as that goes. So
Just in case she watches this.
yes,
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
she keeps me balanced for sure. So
Yeah.
as all the great ones do.
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Yep. So Todd and I talk a lot about that. Behind every great man, there's an even better woman.
Amen.
So, Mathew, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've tried to get this down for many months now, and it's been a couple of reschedules. But hey, I think it turned out better than it ever could. So, thank you very, very much for being on the show.
And thank you for having me on. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you and Todd.
No problem. So for everybody listening, thank you very much for tuning in. On behalf of Todd Davis, aka Todd Social, Mathew Thomas, and myself, we'd like to thank you for tuning into the Inner Voyager Experience and discussing the future of work. Hope to see you next time.
Thank you.